Do you have a morning coffee habit? Well, today we're going to read a news article together that talks about why your morning coffee habit could be healthy, and you'll learn 62 advanced expressions. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started.
First, let's read the headline. Coffee could be more than a morning pick-me-up, according to new research. Now let's start with this word right here, because you're probably looking at this and wondering, what is this or what does it mean? Well, first of all, let's identify what part of speech this is. So we have a morning pick-me-up. So this word functions as a noun, a pick-me-up. Morning tells you what type of pick-me-up. A pick-me-up is something, usually food or drink, in this case coffee, something that boosts your energy or mood. Boost, of course, means increases or improves. Increases your energy, improves your mood. So this woman, she looks a little tired. She looks like she could use a pick-me-up. A pick-me-up. Now, this is the noun form. We commonly use this as a verb. So let's review the sentence where we could change the noun to a verb. Coffee could do more than pick you up. So coffee can pick you up, boost your mood or energy, and do other things. So that's the do more than pick you up. So we use the verb be with a noun because it's a state, but do with the verb because it's an action. So first thing in the morning, this tired woman could say, I need a pick-me-up. I need a pick-me-up. So in this case, is it a noun or a verb? Well, you see this article here, so that tells you it's a noun, and our verb is need. You need something. You need a noun. I need a pick-me-up. Does that describe you first thing in the morning? Do you think to yourself, I need a pick-me-up, something to boost your energy or mood? If that describes you, put that's me in the comments. And don't worry about taking these notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Let's continue. A morning cup of coffee may do more than just perk you up. Notice here, coffee could do more than pick you up, but they just changed the word pick you up to perk you up. To perk one up means to make you feel more alert or energetic. So it has a very similar meaning to pick you up. Pick you up also includes your mood, whereas perk you up is really just about your energy and alertness. But we don't use it as a noun. So you can say, I need a perk me up. It does not exist in English, even though you can say, I need a pick-me-up, and it sounds very natural and common. So don't use this as a noun. You can use it as a verb. And there's also an adjective that's derived from the verb, which is perky. Have you heard this? You're very perky today. You could say this to your friends, your coworker, your spouse. You're very perky today. That means lively and full of positive energy, because it's a positive thing. You're very perky today. Let's continue. Moderate amounts of caffeine intake. Here, caffeine intake, you can replace the word intake with consumption. So caffeine consumption is how much caffeine you consume. So the verb is consume, the noun is consumption. So if you wanted to use the verb for intake, it would be how much caffeine you take in, which would be your caffeine intake. I think that consumption would be the more commonly and easily understood word choice. So I wrote that here for you. And what about you? How would you describe your caffeine intake, your caffeine consumption? Is it low, moderate, which means medium, not too low, not too high, or is it high, low, moderate, or high? So you can share that or put how many cups you consume. How many cups you drink would be the everyday way of saying that. How many cups you drink per day or per morning. Feel free to share. As for me, if you're curious, it's one, only one in the morning. And then I switch to tea, which I'm drinking right now. Moderate amounts of caffeine intake, consumption, about 3 cups of coffee or tea a day. So notice they define what they consider to be a medium amount of coffee consumption, which is 3 cups. Does that align with your definition? Is that what you would view a medium amount to be? And then based on that, how would you rate yours? Low, medium, or high? I guess mine would be low or very low. So moderate amounts of caffeine consumption intake were associated with a lower risk of developing cardiometabolic multimorbidity. This is a mouthful. Have you heard someone say that before to describe something as a mouthful? Well, that means it's difficult to say, even for a native speaker. So if you are looking at this and you're thinking, what? How would I say that? Don't worry, it's difficult for me. And it would be difficult for any native speaker who is not a subject matter expert, who is not a doctor or a nutritionist or someone who would regularly use this word, these 2 words, because I promise you, I have never said them before in my life, and I don't truly understand what they mean. So we could describe this as a mouthful. Now, I'll just teach you an easy trick of how I would approach pronouncing this, because yes, it's difficult for me. What I would do is I would look for the individual words first. So I understand multi. Now here, I didn't understand this full word at first, but I understood this, morbid, and I know how to say it. And then I think, okay, well, how would I add this sound, itty, morbidity? And then I have to think about how these sounds would go together. And then I can add the next one. Now, I listened to the audio dictionary pronunciation of this to make sure my pronunciation was correct. I'm only sharing this so you have some strategies to improve your pronunciation. You do not need to add this to your speech or practice the pronunciation of this because you will not use this in your speech. So let's continue. And the article does talk about what this is and why it's important. Said the study's lead author. Cardiometabolic multimorbidity, or CM, now we can simply refer to it as CM. And this is what native speakers do when something is a mouthful, difficult to say, we turn it into an acronym, and then now I only have to say CM. So they're going to tell us what this is because the average person, myself included, does not know what this is. Is the coexistence, so the existence of 2 things at the same time, that's coexistence. The coexistence of at least 2 cardiometabolic diseases, such as coronary heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. Okay, so CM is the existence of 2 diseases, such as these commonly known diseases. That's all we need to know about that, and we'll call it CM going forward.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, the movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson.
Researchers analyzed data from about 180,000 people in the UK Biobank, a large biomedical database and research resource that follows people long term. So this is the definition of what the UK Biobank is, because the average person, like me, does not know what this is. And I had no idea what the UK Biobank or even a biobank in general is. So it's helpful to define it for native speakers as well. Those involved did not have CM at the outset. Okay, the outset. This means at the very beginning. So when they joined or registered for the biobank, that would be the outset. You can use this whenever there's an official start or beginning of something, such as a project. That's an easy thing that has a start and a finish. So at the outset would be at the beginning. And notice that preposition choice, at the beginning, because you would actually say in the middle, but what about end? At the end, at the end. So you have a different preposition choice for in the middle. I don't know why. You just do. At the beginning, in the middle, at the end. So the project was fully funded at the outset, which means at the beginning of the project. You can use these three words as a preposition phrase and put it at the beginning. At the outset, comma, the project was fully funded. You could change this to at the end. You can even make a comparison and say it wasn't fully funded at the outset, but it was at the end, for example. So for understanding the article we're reviewing, the important thing to remember is that the people in this biobank, they did not have CM, they did not have these types of diseases when they joined the biobank at the outset. So remember that, and let's continue. The information included, so the information about the people in the biobank. The information included the participants. The participants, these are the people participating in the biobank. You participate in something, but the noun is participant, and of course, plural. It's plural here because there were 180,000 people. So it's plural. There are many participants, and the possessive mark is after the plural to show that this information belongs to the participants. The information included the participants' self-reported caffeine consumption through coffee or black or green tea. Now, if it's self-reported, it means that I tell you that I drink 1 cup of coffee per day, but you have to believe that my information is true. I could be lying to you. I could actually drink 12 cups and tell you I only drink 1 because I think it sounds better. So that is self-reported. Self-reported caffeine consumption. Oh, we already learned this. Isn't that nice? Notice they changed the word intake to consumption. They previously used intake. Now they're using consumption. It is the same thing. Self-reported caffeine, not intake. Consumption, intake. Remember, that's how much caffeine they consume or they take in, but consume or consumption is the more common. Self-reported caffeine consumption through coffee or black or green tea. And the CM, remember the diseases, they developed through their primary care data, hospital records, and death certificates. So this is the information that's included on the participants who are in the biobank. And remember, they do not have these diseases when they join the biobank at the outset. But later on, because this is a long-term study, it could follow this participant for 20 years. So at the outset, they don't have a disease. But within that 20-year period of being in the biobank, they could develop a disease, a CM. The risk was reduced. So the risk of developing one of these diseases, developing a CM, the risk was reduced by 48.1% if they had 3 cups a day. Remember, they described this as moderate, a medium amount, moderate consumption, moderate intake, or 40.7% if they had 200 or 300 milligrams of caffeine daily, compared with people who didn't drink or drank less than 1 cup. So I've highlighted drink, drank, and then what's the past participle? Drink, drank, drunk. I had it here, so hopefully you knew that. Drink, drank, drunk. So let's say your friend or family member offers you a cup of coffee or cup of tea, and you want to politely decline that. You can say, oh, no, thanks. I've already drunk 3 cups today. So what verb tense is this first one? I've already drunk 3 cups today. It's the present perfect, because these cups, that's a completed past action. You've consumed them. But there's a result in the present, the result being that you no longer want more coffee. I've already drunk 3 cups today. You can absolutely use drunk in the third form. Now, it's most common to use have for native speakers. That doesn't mean you shouldn't or can't say this. You absolutely can. It's the correct choice. But native speakers generally change drunk to had. No thanks, I've already had 3 cups today. How many cups have you had today? Oh, I've already had 1. I just had 1. I want to have 1. So we generally use have, but of course you can use drink, drank, drunk. Now you can also use the verb to consume, because you consume food or beverages. I think it sounds a little more formal or technical and not the most common in day-to-day speech. It wouldn't be that common in just a regular everyday situation for someone to offer you a cup of coffee and you say, no thanks, I've already consumed 3 cups today. You can, it's grammatically correct, but it sounds a little formal or a little technical. What do I mean by technical? Well, a medical doctor who's assessing your health may ask you questions about your consumption. So in that sense, it's more formal or technical. In everyday usage, drink or have, which is, in my opinion, the most common. The methodology is strong. So the methodology being how they got these results. So the methodology that the study used. The methodology is strong and the results line up with existing data. Do you know what this means here? The results line up with. This is another way of saying the results are consistent with. So notice using consistent, you need the verb to be. To be consistent, results, plural. So of course you need the third form, plural, are consistent with existing data. So if they're consistent with, if they line up with, it means they match, they go together. The methodology is strong and the results line up with, are consistent with existing data about caffeine and heart health. So the existing data they already have match the new results they have from this study. But there are still questions about the extent of the connection between caffeine and heart health. The extent of is asking, well, how much of a connection is there? Yes, they produce these results with the study, but how much of a connection is there between caffeine and heart health? So I wrote those meanings there. So again, the extent of the connection is the degree or range of the connection, the amount of the connection, how much of a connection is there. We commonly use the expression to an extent when we want to limit something. So you can say, I agree with you. If you just end there, I agree with you, that sounds like 100%. It's a fact. I agree with you. Now, if you say, I agree with you to an extent, it limits the agreement. I don't know if there's a specific number I can tell you that now means I 80% agree with you or I 50% agree with you. I don't think that exists, but it just limits the agreement. So I can only say it's less than 100%. So it might be that there's one thing that you said that I agree with, but you said 3 other things that I don't agree with. Or those numbers could be completely different. It could be 3 things I agree with, 1 thing I don't. 2 things I do, 2 things I don't. So the combination of the numbers is not known, but in some way it limits the statement. So this is a very powerful thing to say. If you say, for example, the project was a success, to be a success, the project was a success, that's a statement, 100%. But then if you add on to an extent, we know that there were some parts of the project that were 100% successful, but there were other parts that were not. So it's very powerful 3 words that you can add on to a statement to change the meaning. For example, so now they're going to give an example of how there's still questions on the extent, the amount of the connection. For example, perhaps those more likely to consume these substances, and notice how I said consume is used in a more formal way. So here we're not talking about drinking coffee just every day with your friends. They're studying the consumption of coffee. They're analyzing the consumption of coffee. So in this context, although it's an everyday action, they're talking about it in a more formal or technical way. Perhaps those more likely to consume, drink, or have these substances, coffee or tea, also tend to have a healthier diet or to be more physically active. So these are why they don't know the extent of the connection. There are other things that they need to consider. I wrote that information for you, and I also noted that perhaps you can also say maybe they have the same meaning, perhaps is a little more formal. So you can think of it as the formal way of saying maybe, but that doesn't mean you should only use it in formal situations. If you say perhaps, or if you say maybe in your everyday speech, saying perhaps doesn't sound unnatural, but if you want to sound a little more formal, especially in writing, then you can choose perhaps. Although the new study should provide comfort to those who already have a coffee or tea habit, what about you? Do you have a coffee or tea habit? A habit, of course, is a routine behavior of drinking coffee or tea. I definitely have both a coffee and tea habit. What about you? So it should provide comfort. So it should make you feel good that there may be a reduced risk of developing CM, those specific diseases. It isn't necessarily a sign to start a regular caffeine routine. So if you are someone who doesn't currently drink coffee or tea, it's saying that this article alone should not be the reason why you start drinking coffee or tea, because more research needs to be done to confirm the extent of the connection, the amount of the connection. But you probably already drink coffee or tea, so that can bring you some comfort. Here it said provide comfort. You can also use bring someone comfort. Now, the to someone is already here, so you would say should bring comfort to you, should provide comfort to you. And should is our modal verb. That's why we have provide or bring in the base form, because it's modal plus base verb. And again, with comfort, they're saying make you feel good. So instead of should provide, you could say should make you feel good, make you feel better, perhaps to match the specific language of the article. Now, if you wanted to change the word comfort, you could say should provide reassurance, should provide relief. Oh, that's a relief. Now I can drink my coffee without feeling guilty because it may, there's a possibility, it may provide protection against certain CM, certain diseases. So now you can feel good about your coffee or tea habit. Maybe. That's the end of the article. What I'll do now is I'll read the article from start to finish and you can focus on my pronunciation. Coffee could be more than a morning pick-me-up, according to new research. A morning cup of coffee may do more than just perk you up, according to new research. Moderate amounts of caffeine intake, about 3 cups of coffee or tea a day, were associated with a lower risk of developing cardiometabolic multimorbidity, said the study's lead author. Cardiometabolic multimorbidity, or CM, is the coexistence of at least 2 cardiometabolic diseases, such as coronary heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. Researchers analyzed data from about 180,000 people in the UK Biobank, a large biomedical database and research resource that follows people long term. Those involved did not have CM at the outset. The information included the participants' self-reported caffeine consumption through coffee or black or green tea, and the CM they developed through their primary care data, hospital records, and death certificates. The risk was reduced by 48.1% if they had 3 cups a day, or 40.7% if they had 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine daily, compared with people who didn't drink or drank less than 1 cup. The methodology is strong and the results line up with existing data about caffeine and heart health, but there are still questions about the extent of the connection between caffeine and heart health. For example, perhaps those more likely to consume these substances also tend to have a healthier diet or to be more physically active. Although the new study should provide comfort to those who already have a coffee or tea habit, it isn't necessarily a sign to start a regular caffeine routine.
Do you want me to make more lessons just like this? If you do, then put more, put more in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Make sure you watch it right now.